What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today let's get started with Israel Adesanya talks about training for Nassourdine Imavov. Israel Adesanya's training camp for his upcoming bout with Nassourdine Imavov is in full swing, and based on what the Stars team has been sharing, it looks like Izzy is taking the bout super seriously, as he should be.
Make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel.
Recently, eyebrows throughout MMA were collectively raised when it was announced that Adesanya will fight Imavov at UFC's February 1st card in Saudi Arabia. Since Izzy is coming off back-to-back losses, it seemed clear a title fight wasn't in the cards. But still, to have Adesanya fighting on a fight night card, that's not something we've seen in over 6 years. All that aside, recently Adesanya's team has been posting footage of Adesanya's camp, and the former middleweight champ seems to be making the most of his days.
Yeah, another one bites the dust. Just working, man. To be honest, that's how it should be, but I like it where I'm at right now.
What's today's morning block?
A lactic capacity and some MMA work. Then I have wrestling in about an hour and a half, and then strength, and then that's me for the day. Oh no, wait, then hyperbaric, and then that's me for the day.
The footage also comes at a juncture when Adesanya's head coach, Eugene Behrman, reported that he's changing things up considerably for this training camp. And really, no one should be too surprised to hear that. While Adesanya is coming off losses to two of the best middleweights on earth, Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis, a loss to Imavov could bring his days as a legit title contender to a close. Of course, some might argue that all of this is making it look like Adesanya and his team are taking this fight super seriously, when maybe they're not. But given what's on the line, that seems like a stretch, right? Next up, we have Conor McGregor and Khabib go back and forth. It's been well over 5 years now since Khabib and Conor went to war, following one of the most intense and nasty lead-ups to a fight ever. But following recent comments Khabib made about Ireland's state of MMA, tensions have ratcheted way up again. Hostilities resumed after Khabib argued in an interview with the PFL that his native Dagestan has produced way more world-class fighters than Ireland, and that the level of MMA in his region far surpasses that nation's. Not only that, the legend claimed that Ireland's only notable fighters are Conor McGregor and Paul Hughes. The latter is preparing to fight Khabib's cousin, Usman Nurmagomedov, for his Bellator lightweight championship on January 25th. Well, not surprisingly, it wasn't long before Conor McGregor fired back with his ferocity. Here's what the controversial fighter reportedly had to say on X before deleting the posts. And all yous flickers around the way years stood on no ground for your own. Sickening stuff. Look at yous now. You deserve exactly what's there for yous. Not a thing. Nothing. Traitorous bums. The yellow teeths we call yas. Pea brains in a cage. Panache equals zero, creativity equals poop, wherewithal equals fart, embarrassing to me. The done nothing evers. Hashtag not one thing. Never speak my name. You are not on my level. We are not the same. I don't represent you are any of you. I represent greatness. Hold my spitbuckers holder's spit bucket. That's your level. Khabib's comments also didn't sit well with UFC vet Darren Till, as the English fighter posted this. I've always respected Khabib and his team, a lot are fantastic fighters, but for him to sit there and say fighters from Ireland are low level in comparison to, of size of countries and production, Ireland is actually way ahead. Ireland is so small and Russia is so big. Ireland has produced amazing fighters over the years. I would have just said over the size and production of the country, Ireland wins every time. And this is not me being biased because I am neither friends with Khabib's side nor Ireland's side. I'm just stating my opinion. Now, it's certainly true that Ireland has produced more accomplished and notable fighters than just Paul Hughes and Conor McGregor. Case in point, Ian Machado Gary is one of UFC's top welterweights. All that aside, Paul Hughes also got into the action by posting his response to Khabib. Just wait and see. Despite all the blowback his comments have received, Khabib isn't walking back anything he said. The retired, undefeated fighter has since posted this. You can say whatever you want, but if we're talking about facts, you can't compare Irish fighters with fighters from Dagestan. We dominate amateur MMA, and it's not even close. Not just compared to Irish fighters, but the whole world. I'm absolutely confident that if we organize a team versus team matchup, Dagestan would defeat a world team in amateur MMA. And when it comes to professional MMA, we have champions, contenders, and ranked fighters in every major league. Show me Irish fighters who are currently title contenders in the top 3 MMA promotions. At best, you might be able to name 1 or 2 fighters. The facts speak for themselves. Tony Ferguson clapped back at Khabib's comments by saying, "Shut up, fathead. You're still my You fought 2-round pro padded fights leading up to the UFC. Easy to talk when you're not competing, you eunuch. Once a coward, always a coward." But where do you come in on all this? Do you agree with Khabib, or do you think he was way off base with what he said? Merab talks about not fighting Aljo. As 2025 begins, there's absolutely no pressure for Merab Dvalishvili and Aljamain Sterling to fight. But it wasn't that long ago really when there was extensive talk about the fact that the besties appeared to be on a collision course. Back in 2021 and 2022, when Sterling was ruling the UFC's 135 division, Merab was busy extending his winning streak and grinding his way to title contention. So the friends and teammates did field questions from the media about if they would fight, and their answers didn't always sit well with the UFC brass. Well, fast forward to today, and Sterling is competing up a division at featherweight while Merab is the bantamweight champion. So during a recent appearance on the Versus Eric Nixick podcast, Merab was asked whether he and Sterling ever talked about fighting. Merab proceeded to claim since they were never tabled an offer to fight, it never really came up.
If you ask me, I don't want to fight him, but if UFC, hey, put the contract. Hey, Aljo, Merab, you guys have to fight each other. Maybe we talk, but we never talk because it wasn't like, I was so happy for him. I was saying, hey, I don't want to fight with him, and because like, he's helping me, I'm helping him, and then we say, oh, we're gonna fight. Like, it's gonna be so awkward.
As noted, it does seem like the ship sailed on Aljo and Merab getting asked by the UFC to fight. But this very likely won't be the last time there's an online discussion and debate about whether the friends and teammates will fight, and under what conditions. Case in point, Islam Makhachev has already asked about whether he would face his teammates Belal Muhammad in a welterweight title fight. So far, the answer has been no. Merab, meanwhile, is preparing to fight Umar Nurmagomedov on January 18th. Next up, we have some UFC updates. Now let's take a look at some fights that have been reportedly added to UFC's upcoming schedule. According to a report from Pandemic MMA, surging flyweight contender Charles Johnson is going to be throwing hands with the fast-rising Ramazan Temirov. The bout will be part of the UFC's Fight Night Vegas card on March 1st. Johnson has been busy bulldozing his way into the top 15 rankings. Right now, he's number 12, thanks to a 4-fight winning streak. In his last outing in October, the American recorded a unanimous decision over Su Mudayrji. Ramazan, meanwhile, is a relatively new UFC comer. The Uzbekistan fighter made his Octagon debut in October and stopped CJ Vergara in the first round. He's also won 10 straight, and that includes 2 victories under the Ryzen banner. And Mike Heck reported that another fight has been added to March 1st Vegas card, as Andre Lee will reportedly battle JJ Aldrich. Lee is very likely in a must-win situation, as the flyweight has lost 5 in a row. So another loss to close the book on this UFC chapter for her. In Lee's last fight this past June, she dropped a split decision to Montana De La Rosa. Aldrich, meanwhile, is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Veronica Hardy in May. Prior to that, she had won back-to-back fights. It is being reported that UFC 313, which is planned for March 8th, will feature a heavyweight scrap between Janata Deniz and Vitor Petrino. Petrino is looking to get back on track as he's coming off consecutive losses to light heavyweight contender Anthony Smith and Dustin Jacoby. Deniz is also hoping to get back in the win column after suffering his first pro defeat against Marcin Tybura in November. Tybura was awarded the TKO win after doctors would not let Deniz continue into round 3 due to a cut. The heavyweight had won both of his UFC bouts prior to that, after being awarded a contract by Dana White's Contender Series. Up next, we have Jamahal Hill training with Belal Muhammad for Jiri Prochazka fight. Jamahal Hill's road back to UFC's light heavyweight crown will need to go through Jiri Prochazka, and Sweet Dreams is training with the current welterweight king to get prepared. Hill is booked to fight his fellow former champ at UFC 311, which is going down on January 18th. It will mark the first time Hill has competed since he was bombed out by the current champ Alex Pereira at UFC 300 in April. The same can be said for Prochazka, who has been taken out by Pereira in his last scrap, which took place in June. Well, more recently, Muhammad shared out the following footage of him sparring with Hill, as well as this comment: 2 weeks till victory for my bro. What do you think of Hill training with Muhammad ahead of UFC 311? Will it help him prepare better for Jiri specifically? And who do you see winning that fight? Let us know in the comments below. Michael Bisping reveals shocking news. It's been several years now since Michael Bisping dropped jaws throughout MMA, by revealing that from 2013 on until his retirement, he continued to compete despite having progressively worse and ultimately no vision in his right eye. But until recently, the former middleweight champ didn't get into details about how that was even possible, given, the athletic commission and doctors have to clear you to compete before each and every fight. Well, during a recent appearance on the Jackson podcast, Bisping admitted that he just lied to officials when given vision tests. Not only that, the charismatic legend revealed that he and coach Jason Perillo had even come up with a system in case his good eye was covered during pre-fight testing. Here are some of what the English fighter turned broadcaster had to say. I just lied my off in every test. I even had like a little stupid code. Like me and coach Jason Perillo, I would pass the test somehow, but even on site, the commission at the day of the weigh-ins, they would want to check your vision. I was always terrified of what they were going to say, because I didn't have the glass eye then. And this was only like a few years ago, so I didn't have this and my eye looked terrible. You could clearly see when you looked into the eye that it wasn't healthy. So me and Perillo had a thing. I said, if he covers up the eye, go cough for 1 finger, yawn for 2, or whatever. We did that a couple of times, and to be honest, they never even did it. They just went, can you see out of that eye? And I'm like, yeah, and they go, okay. The fact Bisping was able to fight for so long and pass pre-fight testing is pretty unbelievable. You have to wonder, however, if this revelation will prompt officials to be more stringent and thorough moving forward. All that aside, whether you're a fan of Bisping or not, no one can deny just how ridiculously tough the count was. He ultimately decided to retire following his KO loss to Kevin Gastelum in 2017, but just by that juncture, he had started to notice issues with his good eye as well. Joe Rogan leaks Jon Jones' demands for a fight against Tom Aspinall. It's rumored that Jon Jones has asked the UFC for $30 million to sign his next fight. Joe Rogan confirmed these rumors and said he hopes the UFC pays Jon. Here's what Rogan had to say.
I think it's going to be Aspinall. I think they're trying to come to some sort of an agreement. The rumor is that he wants $30 million, and that the UFC is going to pay it. Hopefully, I hope they pay it.
I agree with him. Him and Pereira would be the Pereira.
Yeah.
Sorry, would be the fight everyone wants to see. Yeah,
perhaps
because he's been so dominant that kid.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, if it's going to happen, they're both 37. It should probably happen soon. But Jon is, the heavyweight champion of the world, and Pereira has challengers in the light heavyweight division, especially Ankalaev. He's supposed to be fighting Ankalaev. Ankalaev is very dangerous, and I think he's the #1 contender, and he's been on a winning streak for a long time. He's only got 1 draw, and that was to Jan Blachowicz, who was the former champion. So he's like at the top of the heap, and he's been waiting for a title shot for a long time, but he's been talking a lot, and Alex doesn't like that he talks.
Yeah.
So he's like, can't make him wait.
Yeah.
And so I think Alex just said that he's going to fight in March, and that he's not going to fight Ankalaev. Because if he's fighting in March, when is Ramadan? February 28th, and it ends Saturday, March 29th. So that's exactly during the time period where he's going to fight.
One more, man. Come on now. I got to hit the rim. Oh!